Let's go to our defensive line, who's been getting some work in. We saw posted on Twitter, big Amari McNeil working with former SEC sack leader and pro player and now trainer Marcus Howard. And I can see here, this is their Twitter that Amari McNeil posted. You can see them getting that work in right here with the trainer. And also, I'm gonna ask you about this, but also we'll see that big Chaz Wallace posted that he's now 310 pounds. How do you feel about that? Is that going to help him and help us a lot on that line with him gaining that weight, and also them putting in a lot of defensive line work while everybody else is not working or doing something else? They're putting in this extra work right here. How is this going to benefit the Buffs defensive line?
Well, with Amari McNeil, I think if you go back to the last month and a half of the season, the 2023 season, he was emerging as one of the most improved players on the entire team. But because that was kind of when the season with the Stanford loss started to kind of go downhill a little bit, and they were losing games, and people kind of their focus went on, okay, are the Buffs going to be able to bounce back? And it was less about kind of players that were emerging. And so I thought a little bit of Amari McNeil's improvement went a little lost this past year, but and especially when you go into human psychology of the new guys in the roster are just exciting. You might love Shane Cokes, but then you bring in Quincy Wiggins and just, coming in from being the number one ranked prospect in Louisiana a couple years ago, coming in from LSU and a first off the bus type guy. And that's exciting and new, but, Shane Cokes is going to have a big role in this team. Amari McNeil is going to have a big role in this team. And Chaz Wallace is one of those kind of guys that, he was part of the rotation and did some nice things, but didn't have that Amari McNeil really emergence last season. And so having that weight in there is important, and we'll see what this defensive scheme looks like in terms of how much they're gonna use a nose type in their scheme. But you need some 300 plus pounders, and that's something that they needed to improve on off last year. And there was not as much of an issue defensively with the push against them as there was in terms of the O-line. But as long as it's a good weight, Chico, right? I mean, 310 can be really, really good, or it could not be so good. And so that's one of the things we'll have to keep an eye on during spring ball in terms of how he's moving with that weight.
Yeah, I like Chaz a lot. I like his quickness off the ball and his motor. And all I was saying last year was if he could get a little bit heavier is what I was thinking, and that's what a few other guys on the line, but especially him, Hawkins, if they can get a little bit heavier and keep their quickness. Look at his hand speed right here, and his motor that he had last year. I think is going to benefit him a lot to get on that field and stay in that rotation. Probably, double the time he spent last year. He'll be able to stay on the field this year. He's going to have to compete up that middle with Anquan Barnes. Shane Cokes will be a little bit on the outside, but Amari McNeil up that middle, Victorian Carter up the middle. You got a few guys who's going to be competing, and Bishop Thomas is still on this roster, and that leads, I guess, right into that question to you, because I don't have it on here, but Bishop Thomas is on the roster, but we haven't seen Bishop. Do you have anything on that, or what are your thoughts on that, should I say, with Bishop Thomas being on the roster, and also Chick Dawson off the roster?